Right now, in a $75 million fortress in Kansas, the greatest football player in history is hiding from the world, meticulously plotting a title defense.
Yeah, quite the image.
Right. Meanwhile, halfway across the continent, millions of fans are just walking blindly into the most sophisticated digital trap ever built by foreign syndicates.
Welcome to this special Vailychat broadcast deep dive. Today is Thursday, June 11th, 2026, and the biggest, most sprawling sporting event in human history has officially begun.
It really has.
We are looking at a 48-team, 104-match FIFA World Cup spread across the massive landmass of the United States, Canada, and Mexico.
And, the sheer scale of it is just difficult to wrap your head around. I mean, if you are a fan traveling to this tournament, you aren't just engaging with the game, right? You are stepping into this massive logistical and geopolitical labyrinth.
We are anticipating an attendance of over 6 million people across 16 different host cities. And that unprecedented footprint, it creates a fascinating, almost jarring duality between what happens inside the stadium and what is happening outside of it.
And that duality is exactly our mission today. We're going to examine this massive kickoff through a few very specific lenses. We have a stack of sources detailing the absolute pinnacle of calculated tactics on the pitch, starting with Mexico's statement win today, moving into the forensic preparation of defending champions Argentina, and tracking the emergence of wonderkids like Nico Paz.
Right, the on-pitch stuff is incredible.
But we are also analyzing the incredibly complex reality facing you, the listener, and the fans off the pitch. Because while players are executing these beautiful, fluid game plans, supporters are navigating a chaotic minefield of travel bans, severe visa restrictions, and highly weaponized cyber attacks.
Yeah, it forces us to really redefine what a global mega event actually is in 2026. The boundaries have completely blurred.
Okay, let's unpack this because the contrast is staggering. Let's start with the beauty, right? The action that actually happened on the grass today to open the tournament.
Estadio Azteca.
Exactly, Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. Our sources on the ground describe the atmosphere as deafening, almost suffocating in its intensity.
You really have to consider the historical weight of the Azteca. I mean, this is the cathedral where Pelé was crowned in 1970 and where Maradona had his defining moments in 1986.
Total hallowed ground.
Exactly. So bringing the opening match of an expanded 48-team World Cup back to that specific altitude and environment, it's a very deliberate choice. But the real story is how Mexico handled that suffocating weight.
Yeah.
Coming out and dismantling South Africa with a 2-0 victory is a massive psychological marker for them.
It really was a tactical dismantling. I mean, Julian Quinones was an absolute force of nature out there. He was awarded the Michelob Ultra Superior Player of the Match. And looking at his heat map, he essentially owned the entire left half space.
He was everywhere.
Yeah, isolating defenders, cutting inside, dictating the tempo. But, I look at this win, and I have to challenge a very common footballing cliche here.
Okay, what's that?
We constantly hear about the overwhelming power of home field advantage.
Yeah.
But in a tournament spread across 3 massive countries, I mean, we are talking multiple time zones, drastically different climates, incredible travel distances. Doesn't that advantage naturally get diluted?
It's a fair question.
Does a win in Mexico City today actually set an unstoppable tone for a tournament that might end up in New York or Dallas?
Well, that assumes home field advantage is purely about geographic proximity, right? But in a 48-team format, the advantage is fundamentally psychological. Think about the pressure cooker these co-hosts are operating in.
True, yeah.
You have 150 million global ticket requests. The eyes of the entire sporting world are intensely focused on your opening 90 minutes. If a co-host stumbles out of the gate in this expanded format, the domestic media narrative turns toxic instantly.
Oh, the press would eat them alive.
Absolutely. So an opening win isn't just about 3 points. It acts as a massive pressure release valve. Mexico proved today they can handle the lights and the altitude of their own expectations.
So look at a preemptive strike against your own country's media pressure.
Precisely. In a tournament where teams will be flying thousands of miles between games, establishing your home fortress early provides a deep psychological grounding. It anchors the squad.
It's sending a message.
Yeah, it signals to the rest of the 48-team field, we belong here, we are acclimated, and we dictate the terms in our house. It prevents any narrative of crisis from taking root on day one.
Which is huge. Controlling the media narrative is arguably just as critical as controlling the midfield. And speaking of controlling the narrative, while Mexico just played their first hand very loudly at the Azteca, the reigning champions are orchestrating their title defense far away from the spotlight.
Argentina.
Let's talk about Argentina.
Their approach to navigating this massive North American geography is really a masterstroke of logistical planning.
The sources detailed their choice of base camp, and it is fascinating. They selected the Sporting KC Training Center in Kansas City, Kansas. Just to paint a picture for your listening, this isn't just a practice field.
No, not at all.
It is a $75 million facility spanning 7 acres. It houses 5 fields, including 3 full-size natural grass pitches and 2 synthetic ones equipped with high-grade LED lighting.
State-of-the-art.
Yeah, they have a dedicated sports performance lab, specialized hydrotherapy pools, private media studios. It is a self-contained, highly controlled footballing ecosystem. But what really stands out to me isn't the luxury, it's the location on the map.
Well, the location is the entire point. I mean, why does a squad of elite South American and European-based players choose the American Midwest?
Right.
Centralization. When you analyze their Group J schedule, the strategy becomes incredibly clear. They play Algeria right there in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium on June 16th. Then they take a relatively short flight down to Dallas to face Austria on June 22nd.
And then they just stay there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They remain in Dallas to play Jordan on June 27th at AT&T Stadium.
So they are essentially drawing a very tight circle on a map that covers an entire continent.
By establishing a central hub, they are entirely avoiding the brutal coast-to-coast travel that will erode the physical stamina of other teams. In a tournament of this length, physical preservation is the ultimate currency for the knockout stages.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they have engineered an itinerary that minimizes jet lag, minimizes transit hours, and maximizes time in those hydrotherapy pools.
And minimizing physical fatigue is essentially the foundational philosophy of their manager, Lionel Scaloni. Our sources provided this incredibly dense forensic breakdown of exactly how Argentina won the 2022 World Cup in Qatar.
It's a great read.
I think dissecting that campaign completely reframes what you, as a fan, should expect to see from them in 2026. Because Scaloni isn't a manager who stubbornly chains himself to one grand tactical ideology.
No, dogmatic adherence to a single philosophy in modern international football is usually a recipe for an early elimination. I mean, consider Spain in 2022. Oh, yeah. They executed 1,000 passes against Morocco, completely dominating possession, but generated 0 goals and went home. Scaloni is the ultimate pragmatist. He is a mechanical problem solver.
Right.
To accurately project Argentina's 2026 trajectory, we really must perform a tactical autopsy on how they evolved under extreme fire 4 years ago.
Let's do that autopsy. Because the popular romantic narrative is always, oh, it was destiny, the stars aligned for Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
But the actual tactical data tells a brutal, highly calculated story of survival.
It really does.
Going into Qatar, they were riding a historic 36-match unbeaten streak. They had won the Copa America. Their midfield engine room was a locked-in trio, Leandro Paredes, Rodrigo de Paul, and Giovanni Lo Celso. And then, mere weeks before the tournament, Lo Celso completely tears his hamstring.
Which is devastating. A catastrophic injury to a connective player really forces a manager's hand. You never want to overhaul a functioning system on the eve of a World Cup.
No, of course not.
So, for their opening match against Saudi Arabia, Scaloni attempted a simple plug-and-play solution. He dropped Papu Gomez directly into Lo Celso's vacant role, hoping the surrounding structure would hold.
But the structure collapsed. They lost 2-1 to the 51st ranked team in the world. Reading through the tactical report from our sources, Saudi Arabia's defensive strategy was astonishingly brave.
It was incredibly risky.
They held an absurdly high defensive line, catching Argentina offside 6 times in the first 32 minutes alone. Argentina dominated with 69% possession, generated 2.49 expected goals compared to Saudi Arabia's 0.15, and still managed to lose.
The underlying mechanics of that collapse are very revealing. Papu Gomez naturally drifted far too high up the pitch, frequently moving into the left half spaces. He was essentially trying to operate as a traditional number 10 rather than a connective number 8.
So he's leaving a huge gap behind him.
Exactly. That positional indiscipline left Leandro Paredes functioning as a completely isolated single pivot at the base of the midfield. When Saudi Arabia recognized this, they initiated a highly coordinated high press, and Paredes was suffocated.
Think of a single pivot midfield, like a primary load-bearing pillar in a massive room. If the structural integrity of that single pillar is compromised by a targeted attack, in this case, Saudi Arabia's pressing triggers, the entire roof of your formation collapses.
That's exactly what happened. Paredes had absolutely no outlet passes available, and critically, that isolation destroyed Argentina's rest defense.
Okay, I want to pause on rest defense. It's a term that gets thrown around in tactical blogs, but let's define the mechanics of it for the listener.
Sure. Rest defense refers to the specific positional structure a team maintains while they are actively attacking.
So you're defending while you have the ball.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a preemptive defensive shape designed solely to stop counterattacks the millisecond the team loses possession. Because Gomez pushed too high and Paredes was stranded alone, the moment Argentina turned the ball over, there were massive, unprotected voids in the center of the pitch.
Just wide open space.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia didn't build intricate attacks. Both of their goals came from ruthlessly exploiting those exact transition phases where Argentina's rest defense was non-existent.
So, facing a 2-1 loss and a potential group stage exit, Scaloni is staring down a massive crisis. He has a choice, right? Double down on his established principles and pray for better execution, or ruthlessly scrap his entire blueprint on live global television.
And he decisively chose the latter. Just 96 hours later, during the halftime break against Mexico with the score deadlocked at 0-0, he initiates a massive structural overhaul. He identifies that relying on a static single pivot is tactical suicide.
Right.
So he introduces Enzo Fernandez, who at the time was only 21 years old and barely had any senior caps, and fundamentally alters the team's geometry.
When you say he altered the geometry, we're talking about the passing angles and the distances between the players, right? Because Enzo isn't just a different body. He completely changes how the ball moves out of the defensive third.
Exactly. Paredes was a traditional deep-lying playmaker who liked to sit centrally and spray long, hopeful diagonal passes. Enzo Fernandez, however, provides elite, press-resistant, line-breaking carrying ability.
So he can dribble out of trouble.
He can. Scaloni abandoned the rigid 4-3-3 shape. Instead, Enzo would drop deep, fluidly forming a temporary double pivot alongside DePaul to aid the center backs in the build-up phase. This localized numerical superiority allowed Argentina to bypass the opposition's press with short, precise triangles.
And along with Enzo, Scaloni fully integrates Alexis McAllister, who essentially becomes the tactical glue of the entire squad.
Oh, McAllister's spatial awareness is astonishing. Out of possession, he drops dutifully to ensure the midfield block remains compact. But in possession, his primary function was to continuously read the movements of Lionel Messi.
Interesting.
Yeah, whenever Messi dropped deep toward the halfway line to receive the ball, McAllister would instantly sprint forward, occupying the exact pocket of dangerous space Messi had just vacated.
The statistical impact of this midfield reinvention was violent. By their final group match against Poland, Argentina's PPDA, which stands for Passes Allowed per Defensive Action, a metric used to quantify the intensity of high press, plummeted to elite levels. They were mathematically suffocating their opponents.
They really were.
Enzo Fernandez finished the tournament with an 88% pass completion rate, orchestrating the tempo entirely. Scaloni completely re-engineered their biomechanical functioning in under 4 days.
It's remarkable, but that really only solves the midfield progression. There is a much larger, almost philosophical problem Scaloni had to solve.
Which is?
If you look at the apex predators of modern football, the Champions League winners, the elite international squads, they all rely on highly synchronized full team pressing structures. And that press always initiates with the center forward, the number 9.
Right.
But Lionel Messi, well, Messi walks.
He actively conserved energy. I mean, the physical tracking data from the 2022 group stages revealed that Messi covered the least amount of ground of any outfield player in the tournament, frequently walking for over 4.5 kilometers per match.
And that's a problem for a modern pressing system.
Right, because I always thought that in the modern high-pressing game, if even one forward refuses to trigger the press, your entire defensive block is compromised. Opposing center backs can just step up into the midfield, create numerical overloads, and completely dismantle your shape. So how on earth did Scaloni build a functional, elite pressing system around a player who operates like a walking ghost?
He solved it by deploying Julian Alvarez. We can call it the Alvarez protocol.
I like that.
He wasn't inserted into the starting lineup purely for his finishing ability. He was selected because he possesses the cardiovascular capacity of a triathlete. Alvarez essentially absorbed the pressing responsibilities of two men. But it wasn't just headless running. The genius lay in the precise geometry of his pressing angles. He executed brilliantly curved pressing runs.
Let's visualize the mechanics of a curved pressing run for the listener. Why does the arch matter more than running in a straight line?
Well, if a forward sprints in a straight line directly at a center back holding the ball, the center back can easily slip a pass to the side, bypassing the forward instantly.
Right.
But by arching his run, approaching the center back from a wide angle and curving inward, Alvarez placed his physical body directly into the passing lane, connecting that center back to his defensive midfielder.
So he's hitting two birds with one stone.
Exactly. With one single, exhausting, arched sprint, Alvarez was simultaneously shutting down the ball carrier and marking the primary passing option at the back.
Because Alvarez, supported by Enzo and DePaul, was executing this immense volume of dirty work, Messi was granted full tactical immunity. He was given the license to just stand still in the right half spaces, observing the opposition's defensive block shifting and calculating exactly where the blind spots were forming.
And that leads to lethal transition moments. When Alvarez's relentless pressure finally forced a turnover, Argentina didn't need to slowly build up an attack. Messi was already occupying the optimal pocket of clean air that the opponent had just vacated in their panic.
Wow.
Alvarez regularly covered over 10 kilometers a match, functioning as the engine so the genius could operate exclusively in high-leverage moments.
Okay, so Scaloni fixes the buildup with Enzo and McAllister, and he masks Messi's lack of pressing with Alvarez's curved runs. That gets them out of the group stages. But knockout football is a completely different ecosystem.
Very different.
You start facing these tactical mutant teams, engineered by elite managers. This is where Scaloni proved he wasn't just a system builder, he became a shapeshifter.
Oh, the quarterfinal against Louis van Gaal's Netherlands is a masterclass in tactical mirroring.
Yeah.
Van Gaal utilized a highly structured 3-4-1-2 system. He relied almost entirely on his wingbacks, Denzel Dumfries and Daley Blind, to push incredibly high up the pitch to create width and numerical overloads on the flanks.
Right.
It is an offensive shape explicitly designed to break down a traditional back four. It forces opposing fullbacks to make agonizing decisions about who to mark, inevitably dragging center backs out of their central defensive zones.
Faced with a system designed to destroy a back four, what does Scaloni do? He swallows his pride, entirely abandons his successful 4-3-3 formation, and mirrors Van Gaal. He deploys a 5-3-2.
He matched them piece for piece. He added Lisandro Martinez as a third center back to solidify the middle, but the crucial adjustment was using Nahuel Molina and Marcos Acuna as aggressive wingbacks.
Basically telling them to go toe-to-toe.
Exactly. He initiated a high-stakes, incredibly physical game of man-to-man coverage across the entire width of the pitch. Molina was tasked with pinning Daley Blind deep into his own half, while Acuna went into a grueling physical battle with Dumfries.
Neutralizing the threat entirely.
By completely neutralizing the wide areas through sheer man-marking, Scaloni forced the Netherlands to try and build their attacks through the crowded center of the pitch.
He forced them right into the teeth of Enzo Fernandez and DePaul. It's brilliant because the opening goal of that match came from Molina. By deploying a wingback system, Molina made an inverted, underlapping run that completely short-circuited Van Gaal's man-marking assignment.
It was a beautiful goal.
But the tactical puzzle changed entirely just 4 days later in the semifinal against Croatia. And this is where I find Scaloni's pragmatism most impressive. Croatia boasted arguably the most press-resistant midfield trio on the planet: Luka Modric, Marcelo Brozovic, and Mateo Kovacic.
Oh, if you attempt to initiate a high press against those three players, you are signing your own death warrant. They will use rapid, one-touch passing triangles to bypass your forward line, embarrass your midfield, and make you chase the ball until your players' legs give out.
Right.
Scaloni recognized that pressing Croatia was a trap, so he refused to engage them high up the pitch. Instead, he deployed a highly compact 4-4-2 mid-block.
So you just drop back.
Yeah. He deliberately dropped Argentina's line of confrontation entirely out of the attacking third and into the middle third of the pitch.
If you look at the raw statistics from that semifinal, they are incredibly deceptive. Croatia held 61% of the possession. To a casual observer, it looked like Croatia was dominating the flow of the game.
But as the saying goes, possession without penetration is just cardio. Argentina's mid-block aggressively clogged the central passing lanes. By sitting slightly deeper, Scaloni was laying a trap.
Waiting for a mistake.
He deliberately invited Croatia's defensive line to push higher up the pitch to support their midfield possession. The moment Croatia committed a sloppy pass and turned the ball over in the middle third, they left massive, unprotected acres of green grass behind their defense.
And that is exactly how Argentina dismantled them. The penalty for the first goal and Alvarez's chaotic bulldozing solo run for the second goal both materialized from those exact middle third turnovers. Scaloni effectively weaponized Croatia's own desire to hold possession against them.
It was ruthless.
Which brings us to the final against France, defending champions. Manager Didier Deschamps had constructed this terrifying asymmetrical hybrid system. Kylian Mbappe was stationed on the left wing, but he was absolved of all defensive responsibilities.
Right.
Antoine Griezmann was transformed into a hybrid number 8 and number 10, doing massive amounts of defensive work to cover the gaps, while Adrien Rabiot constantly shuttled over to cover the space behind Mbappe. To defeat this, Scaloni needed his most audacious trap yet.
And that trap was the deployment of Angel Di Maria.
Which genuinely shocked everyone analyzing the lineups. I mean, Di Maria had barely seen the pitch in the knockout stages due to muscle injuries. Furthermore, throughout his entire career, he almost exclusively operated on the right wing, using his pace to cut inside onto his dominant left foot.
Yeah, classic inverted winger.
Yet, in the biggest match of his life, Scaloni starts him aggressively high and extremely wide on the left flank.
Yeah.
Why make that specific adjustment?
Well, you have to analyze the specific vulnerabilities of France's defensive personnel. Because Mbappe refuses to drop back and defend on France's left, Scaloni knew his right-sided players, De Paul and Molina, could comfortably manage that flank. The structural weakness was on France's right.
Okay.
They deployed Ousmane Dembele as the right winger and Jules Koundé at right back. Now, Koundé is a world-class center back, but he was playing entirely out of position at right back.
Playing an elite center back out wide against a shifty winger is like taking a heavily armored tank onto a drifting track. Koundé has elite physical power and tackling ability, but he severely lacks the fluid chassis and lateral agility required to defend sudden changes in direction near the touchline.
That is an excellent mechanical analogy. Koeman's lack of lateral fluidity meant he desperately needed Dembele to drop deep and provide defensive support. But while Dembele is an electric attacker, his defensive awareness is erratic at best.
So they were vulnerable.
Very. By pinning Di Maria incredibly high and wide on the left touchline, Scaloni forced Koundé into a terrifying one-on-one isolation. At exactly the 21st minute, the trap was triggered.
I remember it perfectly.
Di Maria received the ball wide, isolated Dembele, beat him effortlessly with a simple feint toward the end line, and Dembele clumsily clipped his heel inside the penalty area. Messi converts the penalty. 1-0.
And the execution of their second goal belongs in a museum. It is the textbook exploitation of transition mechanics. Dayot Upamecano gets dragged slightly out of position, pressing high. Messi receives the ball and hits a blind one-touch pre-assist with the outside of his boot.
Beautiful pass.
Alexis McAllister, recognizing the space Upamecano vacated, makes a devastating third man run perfectly through the center of the pitch. He draws the remaining defender and squares a simple pass across the box to Di Maria, who buries it. 2-0. France was so thoroughly dismantled, they registered 0 shots in the first 70 minutes of a World Cup final.
The tactical domination was so absolute that Didier Deschamps was forced to make a humiliating double substitution in the 41st minute, pulling Dembele and Olivier Giroud off the pitch before halftime. It was a massive white flag regarding his initial game plan.
Unprecedented in a final.
Yeah. However, attempting to sit on a 2-0 lead against a generational anomaly like Kylian Mbappe is a severe mathematical hazard.
At the 64th minute, Scaloni reacts to an exhausted Di Maria by bringing on Acuna, attempting to shift back into a 5-3-2 to lock down the perimeter, but Deschamps realizes his midfield is being completely suffocated. So he makes a radical, almost chaotic decision. He decides to stop playing through the midfield entirely.
He introduces Kingsley Coman, shifts midfielder Eduardo Camavinga into an inverted left-back role, and pushes Randal Colomwani and Marcus Thuram high up the pitch alongside Mbappe. France violently mutated from a structured system into a hyper-aggressive, incredibly vertical 4-2-4 formation.
They just bypassed the tactical battleground entirely. They started launching direct, vertical long balls over the top of the midfield.
Yeah.
The game devolved into pure chaos, relying entirely on winning second balls and brute physical duels.
Right.
All of Enzo Fernandez's elite passing geometry meant absolutely nothing because the ball was constantly flying 10 feet above his head.
And under that sheer, unadulterated weight of physical pressure, the Argentine structure cracked. Nicolas Otamendi misjudges the flight of a bouncing long ball and clumsily fouls Colomwani. Penalty. Mbappe converts it. 2-1.
And then it happens again.
A mere 97 seconds later, Coman dispossesses Messi near the sideline, immediately triggering a vertical transition. Mbappe hits a first-time volley that essentially defies the laws of physics. 2-2.
The match shifted from a chess masterclass into a display of raw, generational athleticism. And all this complex tactical maneuvering ultimately boiled down to a single defining action in the 123rd minute, the Emiliano Martinez save.
I was looking at the advanced metrics from our sources, specifically the XGOT, expected goals on target. XGOT is a crucial metric here. While standard expected goals XG measures the probability of a shot resulting in a goal based on the location it was taken from, XGOT measures the quality of the shot after it has been struck, based on where it actually hits the frame of the goal.
Okay.
Colomwani is completely isolated one-on-one. He strikes the ball cleanly with immense power, keeping it low and directed toward the corner. Based on historical data models, 9 times out of 10, a shot of that specific trajectory and velocity ends the World Cup.
But Martinez utilizes a sprawling, almost desperate starfish technique. He rushes out, maximizes his physical spread to entirely eliminate the shooting angle, and deflects the ball with his left boot. It is, mathematically speaking, one of the most improbable and highly consequential saves in the history of the sport.
Which forces the match into the penalty shootout. And it is a massive misconception when pundits refer to shootouts as a lottery.
I always hated that term. It removes all agency from the players.
It demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of the mechanics of psychological pressure. Comprehensive data analysis shows that when a goalkeeper employs deliberate disruption tactics, such as delaying the referee's whistle, speaking directly to the penalty taker, or physically tossing the ball away from the spot, the conversion rate of the shooters drops significantly.
Wow, so the mind games actually work on paper.
They absolutely do. Emiliano Martinez orchestrated an absolute psychological masterclass. Before Aurelien Tchouameni's kick, Martinez took the ball and tossed it toward the corner of the penalty area. He forced the 22-year-old to walk away from the spot, fetch the ball, and reset his physical alignment.
Just breaking his rhythm entirely.
That slight disruption entirely broke Tchouameni's pre-kick routine. He pulled his shot wide. Argentina secures the trophy.
So it's like Scaloni's playing a mirror match in a video game, except he knows his player wearing number 10 has the cheat codes.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We have just outlined the incredibly complex, shape-shifting blueprint Scaloni utilized in 2022. But what does this mean for you, the fan, watching them in 2026? Scaloni proved that tactical dogmatism is dead. But looking at the current squad gathered in Kansas City, they retain roughly two-thirds of that 2022 roster. They are currently operating in a 4-3-3.
Yep.
Messi is back, attempting a record 6th World Cup at 39 years old. However, the ultimate chaos variable, Angel Di Maria, has retired from the national team. Furthermore, several key players are entering the tournament lacking peak physical conditioning after grueling European club seasons. The massive question hanging over their camp is, who possesses the specific profile to fill those tactical voids?
It's the multi-million-dollar question.
If Scaloni needs a new asymmetrical weapon to solve a complex defense, who does he turn to?
This is where the tactical analysis must pivot to the next generation of Argentine talent. And right now, the primary focus is on a 21-year-old named Nico Paz.
I am fascinated by Nico Paz. Let's really dive into his profile. He is currently making significant waves playing for Como in Italy's Serie A. He operates primarily as an attacking midfielder and posted an impressive 12 goals and 7 assists during the 25-26 season. But his origin story is what really catches my attention.
It's unique.
He wasn't born in Buenos Aires or Rosario. He was actually born in Tenerife, Spain.
His trajectory highlights the modern, highly fluid nature of football academies. He holds dual nationality. He spent his crucial developmental years inside the highly prestigious Real Madrid academy structure.
Which is elite.
Oh, absolutely. The fact that Real Madrid explicitly insisted on embedding a buyback clause into his transfer contract to Como tells you everything you need to know about how high they view his ultimate ceiling.
They won him back eventually.
Yeah, but despite his deep ties to Spain, the Argentine Football Association relentlessly recruited him, and he ultimately chose to represent the Albiceleste. He stated publicly, "I love both countries, but in the end I chose Argentina, the country that represents me the most, because of its people and the way football is lived there."
But I have to push back here. He's 21 years old. He's playing for Como, a team that isn't exactly dominating the upper echelons of the Champions League. Isn't expecting a young kid from a mid-table Serie A side to seamlessly replace a battle-tested, world-class legend like Di Maria in the high-stakes knockout stages of a World Cup a massive leap of faith?
Well, it would be if we were purely looking at club prestige. But the endorsements validating his raw talent are staggering, and they come from the absolute highest authorities in the sport.
Like who?
Lionel Messi himself publicly praised Paz's spatial intelligence, marveling that the kid possesses a mindset that perfectly understands the complex rhythms of the game, despite the fact that Paz wasn't even born when Messi made his professional debut.
Wow, praise from Messi is huge.
And his club manager at Como, Cesc Fabregas, who is intimately familiar with elite tactical systems, issued a public warning to the footballing world. Do not try to turn Nico Paz into a highly structured robot. Fabregas insists Paz requires the freedom to express his natural creativity. Even Roma legend Francesco Totti singled him out as the one young player he monitors closely, stating he possesses the raw materials to become one of the best in the world.
Okay, let's connect those raw materials directly back to Scaloni's tactical needs. Why is Paz specifically suited to Argentina's system?
It comes down to his biomechanics. He is heavily left-footed, but he naturally operates in the right half spaces. This allows him to constantly cut inside onto his dominant foot, opening up passing lanes across the entire width of the pitch.
So he sees the whole field.
Right. He possesses an explosive burst of acceleration in tight areas near the penalty box, and his ball-carrying metrics, his ability to receive a pass under pressure and actively drive the ball forward through the lines of the opposition's midfield, are elite.
So, if Di Maria was the highly specific tool Scaloni utilized to exploit Jules Koenig on the flank, Nico Paz sounds like a much more central, connective Swiss Army knife. He can carry the ball, he can shoot from distance, and he isn't rigidly bound to a single positional structure.
Precisely. In a squad that relies on an intricate blend of experienced talent, high-intensity running, and fluid tactical shapes, injecting a highly creative, left-footed midfielder who operates outside the rigid confines of a robotic system, is invaluable. He provides Scaloni with a completely new variable to deploy when the inevitable tactical stalemates occur in the later rounds of 2026.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. So for a young player like Nico Paz, crossing international borders, moving from Tenerife to Madrid, from Madrid to Como, and ultimately choosing the Argentine crest, is a seamless, frictionless progression.
Very true.
The modern elite footballer operates in an essentially borderless world, moving freely to wherever their talent dictates. But I want you, the listener, to hold that thought. Because while the players glide effortlessly across the globe to converge on these stadiums, the fans attempting to follow them are slamming into a harsh, unyielding reality. The concept of borders for the supporters in 2026 is an absolute nightmare.
The contrast is jarring. While the tournament on the pitch celebrates global unity, the physical borders off the pitch are presenting severe barriers to entry. According to multiple verified sources, the United States government has implemented stringent travel restrictions and complex visa protocols that are directly and heavily impacting several nations that qualified for this tournament.
Let's detail exactly what the sources are reporting regarding these physical barriers. We are looking at a full, comprehensive travel ban affecting fans attempting to travel from Iran and Haiti. There is a partial travel ban enforced against supporters from the Ivory Coast, and fans originating from Senegal are experiencing such severe bureaucratic friction regarding visa approvals that travel is nearly impossible.
We have to examine the human cost of these policies. The sources highlight a statement from Julien Quadio, the president of the Ivory Coast's National Supporters Group. His words carry profound frustration.
Yeah, he was very vocal.
He expressed deep hurt over the situation, stating that many supporters were forced to entirely cancel their travel arrangements after being explicitly told they are not wanted on U.S. soil. He framed this not just as missing a sporting event, but as being forcibly prevented from fulfilling what he called their sacred duty to support their national team.
Sacred duty. That phrasing really resonates. For thousands of people around the world, attending a World Cup isn't akin to taking a casual vacation. It is a lifelong pilgrimage. It represents their cultural identity on the global stage.
Exactly.
But the friction at the border isn't exclusively targeting fans in the stands. The rigid security apparatus is entangling the actual officials hired to run the tournament. Let's talk about the incredibly disruptive incident involving Omar Artan.
The Omar Artan situation perfectly encapsulates the collision between international sporting logistics and sovereign national security. Artan is widely recognized as Africa's leading referee. He hails from Somalia and was formally vetted and placed on FIFA's official list of designated match officials for the 2026 tournament.
Okay.
He flew into Miami International Airport carrying his official FIFA credentials, fully expecting to begin his duties. However, upon arrival, he was detained and subsequently denied entry into the United States.
I assume the immediate question from FIFA was, on what grounds? I mean, they cleared him.
The official statement from U.S. Customs and Border Protection cited that Artan was deemed inadmissible due to vetting concerns based on shared law enforcement and national security intelligence databases. Despite his status as an elite sporting official, the rigidity of the border protocols superseded his FIFA documentation.
He was forced to board a plane and fly back to Africa. The sources note that upon his return to Mogadishu, he was greeted by a massive crowd of supporters and local officials, essentially treating him as a hero.
Yeah, it became a huge moment there.
He addressed the crowd, stating, "Somalia belongs to us. That flag belongs to us, and that passport belongs to us. I promise you, God willing, that I will attend the next one." It's an incredibly powerful moment of national pride, but from a purely functional standpoint, it is a massive logistical failure for the tournament organizers.
And this specific friction is generating significant alarm within the broader international community. And to be clear, our role here is to impartially report the data provided by our sources regarding this geopolitical climate without endorsing any political stance.
Right, exactly.
However, the facts on the ground are stark. Amnesty International, operating in coalition with over 100 local advocacy groups, has taken the unprecedented step of issuing a formal travel warning directed at international fans planning to visit the 11 host cities located within the United States.
What specifically triggered a human rights organization to issue a travel warning for a sporting event?
The coalition is citing extensive data compiled by Human Rights Watch regarding domestic immigration enforcement operations. The sources detail that icy immigration and customs enforcement conducted operations, resulting in the arrests of 167,000 individuals in and immediately surrounding the 11 host cities between early 2025 and March of 2026.
Those are massive numbers.
The issued warnings explicitly caution international visitors that they may be subjected to invasive digital searches of their mobile devices at ports of entry, and they raise serious concerns regarding the potential for racial profiling by law enforcement agencies. Amnesty International formally argues that these ongoing practices are in breach of U.S. human rights obligations under both domestic and international legal frameworks.
I was looking at the economic data regarding hotel bookings, and the ripple effect of this geopolitical tension is jarring. The sources refer to this phenomenon as the Trump slump. Again, regardless of your personal politics, the economic metrics are undeniable.
Yeah, the numbers speak for themselves.
Tourist arrivals into the United States had already declined by 5.4% the previous year. Now, a comprehensive survey conducted by the American Hotel and Lodging Association, which analyzed data from over 200 hotels situated directly in the host cities, revealed that nearly 80% of these properties are currently tracking significantly below their initial booking forecasts for the duration of the tournament.
The economic shortfall is a direct consequence of this friction. Fans are actively deterring their travel plans. They are weighing the severe difficulties of securing a visa, the escalating financial costs of flights and accommodations, and the highly charged political atmosphere documented by these travel warnings, and many are simply deciding the pilgrimage is no longer viable.
And the geopolitical alliances add another layer of complexity.
Yeah.
The sources note that Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, has positioned himself as a close political ally of Donald Trump, even publicly advocating for the creation of a unified geopolitical front spanning the Americas, from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego.
Right.
The players, like Messi or Julian Alvarez, generally maintain a strict silence regarding these political maneuvers. But looking at all of this evidence, the travel bans, the detention of a FIFA referee, the economic slumps driven by immigration policies, I have to push back hard on a very tired narrative. We are constantly sold the romantic idea that sports transcend politics, that the World Cup is a universal unifier. But based on these sources, is it actually possible to separate a sprawling global mega event from the sovereign, often rigid security policies of the host nation?
It is a fundamental impossibility. The sheer logistical scale of a World Cup demands that a host nation temporarily adjust or suspend its standard operational procedures to accommodate the massive influx of international citizens. However, sovereign borders, national security directives, and immigration laws are intentionally rigid structures. When you radically expand a tournament to 48 teams, you are mathematically guaranteeing the inclusion of nations that maintain highly complex, strained, or openly hostile diplomatic relations with the host government. The friction isn't just a possibility, it is structurally inevitable. The 90 minutes of football on the pitch may briefly transcend politics, but every single person inside that stadium had to navigate a heavily politicized sovereign border just to find their seat.
And even if you, as a fan, successfully clear the physical border, secure your visa, and arrive in North America, you are immediately confronted by another entirely invisible boundary that is arguably much more dangerous: the digital border.
The cybersecurity threat landscape surrounding this specific World Cup is unprecedented. Because of the massive demand and the entirely digital nature of ticketing and access, it has become a highly lucrative paradise for sophisticated fraud syndicates.
Let's contextualize the sheer volume of this demand for the listener. According to FIFA's own data, they received an astonishing 150 million ticket requests during the initial 15-day application window, yet the total expected capacity across all stadiums for the entire tournament is only around 6 million fans.
It's incredible.
The tournament is oversubscribed by a factor of nearly 30 to 1. You have millions of desperate fans, a massive scarcity of legitimate access, and billions of dollars moving rapidly through digital channels. It is a powder keg.
That extreme disparity between supply and demand is the exact formula required to fuel coordinated, large-scale cybercrime. Major security research firms operating in conjunction with the FBI are issuing urgent warnings regarding a massive surge in FIFA-themed attacks. The most highly organized and technically advanced operation identified in the intelligence reports is designated as Operation Ghost Stadium.
I want to break down Operation Ghost Stadium carefully, because it's vital that you know exactly what to look for. Who is operating this, and how does the mechanics of their trap actually function?
The intelligence indicates it is a financially motivated, Chinese-speaking cyber syndicate. They have successfully registered over 4,300 fraudulent web domains. They're deploying a highly sophisticated phishing infrastructure that hosts over 300 cloned websites designed to meticulously mimic the legitimate FIFA.com ticketing portal.
When you say mimic, how close are we talking?
They are practically indistinguishable. The syndicates are actively pulling high-resolution images and formatting scripts directly from FIFA's live servers in real time, which allows them to effectively bypass standard automated detection tools that look for low-quality graphics.
Okay, let's walk through the exact scenario.
Yeah.
Imagine you were a fan who missed out on the initial ticket lottery. You are desperate. You see a highly targeted advertisement on Facebook or receive a link in a WhatsApp group promising access to resale tickets. You click the link and land on one of these clone sites. What exactly happens next?
The critical vulnerability lies in how perfectly they have replicated the login process. FIFA utilizes a legitimate single sign-on service provided by Ping Identity. The fraudulent sites perfectly mimic this Ping Identity portal, going so far as to utilize the genuine client identification codes within the browser URL to appear authentic to anyone checking the web address.
That's terrifyingly clever.
Yeah, when you attempt to log in with your actual FIFA credentials, the cloned site intentionally generates a fake error prompt, instructing you that you must reset your password to proceed.
And the moment you type in your current password and your new password to complete the reset, you've handed them the keys to your life.
Exactly. The syndicates instantly harvest those credentials. They use automated scripts to log into the genuine FIFA ticketing portal using your stolen password, immediately change the login details to lock you out of your own account, and then they harvest any legitimate, highly valuable tickets that were already tied to your profile.
So they use the real tickets on your account to sell.
Yes. They aren't merely selling you fake tickets. They are breaking into your account to steal your real tickets and resell them on the black market.
That level of digital theft is terrifying because it preys on the user's trust in standard security prompts like a password reset. Is there any clear, undeniable tell that a user can look for to realize they are on a ghost stadium site before it's too late?
Yes, the ultimate red flag always revolves around the payment gateway. The fraudulent sites will process standard credit cards and utilize common money transfer applications, but they universally offer a distinct cryptocurrency payment option that automatically converts your credit card transaction into crypto assets.
Oh, okay.
Legitimate FIFA ticketing infrastructure never, under any circumstances, requests or processes payments via cryptocurrency. If the checkout page offers a crypto wallet address, you are actively being scammed. To understand the scale of this, Group IB, a leading cybersecurity firm, estimates that financial losses stemming solely from premium VIP ticket fraud could range between $71 million and $474 million.
Good Lord.
The total economic drain of the broader campaign is projected to reach into the billions.
Billions of dollars being siphoned out of the sporting economy. But let's shift focus away from the wealthy fans buying premium tickets. What about the average fan who simply wants to watch the game on their mobile device? The fan searching for a free, unofficial stream to watch Mexico play South Africa while on their commute.
They are walking directly into a completely different, highly destructive threat vector. Cybersecurity researchers from ThreatFabric and Kaspersky have documented a massive spike in malicious mobile malware, specifically categorized as Android banking Trojans.
Trojans, right?
The syndicates are creating and distributing fake, unofficial mobile applications that disguise themselves as popular, well-known sports streaming hubs such as Roger Directa. Because these malicious apps violate copyright laws, they are not hosted on the official Google Play Store. Users are required to manually sideload the application by downloading the raw installation file from a third-party website, which inherently bypasses Android's standard security warnings.
Okay, I want to unpack the technical mechanism of this malware because it's crucial. Our sources identified two specific strains of these Trojans, named Massive and Perseus. How do these programs actually manage to drain your checking account while you think you're just watching a low-resolution football stream?
The entire attack relies on weaponizing Android's built-in accessibility services.
Wait, I always assumed that granting an app accessibility permissions just meant allowing it to increase the font size, invert the screen colors, or utilize text-to-speech functions for visually impaired users. Are you telling me that by clicking Allow on an accessibility prompt, the phone's operating system actually hands over the functional keys to intercept raw data across the entire device?
That is precisely what it means. Android's accessibility services are fundamentally designed to interact with and control the user interface on behalf of the user. To read text aloud, the OS must explicitly grant the application permission to see every piece of text displayed on your screen. To help a user navigate, the OS grants permission for the app to draw graphic overlays on top of other active applications. The malware syndicates have explicitly weaponized these high-level developer permissions.
So, you download the fake streaming app, it asks for accessibility access, and you absentmindedly click Allow because you just want the match to load. What does Massive or Perseus do next?
It lies dormant in the background, constantly monitoring your activity. The moment you open your legitimate banking application, say Chase or Bank of America, the malware detects the activity. It instantly utilizes its permission to draw over other apps to seamlessly lay a perfectly cloned fake login screen directly on top of your real banking app.
You're kidding.
The transition is visually imperceptible. You type in your username and password, fully believing you are interacting with your bank, but you are actually typing your credentials directly into the hacker's overlay.
But wait, modern banking requires two-factor authentication. Even if they have my password, they still need the secure code texted to my phone.
Well, because you granted accessibility permissions, the malware also possesses the ability to read your incoming SMS messages.
Oh no.
It silently intercepts the text message from your bank, reads the two-factor authentication code, automatically inputs the code into the real banking app running silently underneath the overlay, initiates a massive wire transfer, and drains your account balance. You never even realize it happened.
Yeah.
The Perseus variant is so advanced that it will even aggressively scan your device's note-taking applications to locate plain text passwords or the highly sensitive recovery phrases for your cryptocurrency wallets.
That is legitimately terrifying. It turns the device in your pocket into an active financial weapon against you. So what does this all mean for the fan on the ground? Think about this scenario. Imagine you are the ultimate survivor of this process. You successfully secured a legitimate ticket, you navigated the arduous visa application, you avoided the ghost stadium phishing sites, you didn't download any fake streaming apps, and you are finally sitting in the lobby of your hotel in Monterey or Guadalajara. Are you finally safe?
Unfortunately, no. The physical digital infrastructure of the host cities themselves presents a severe vulnerability. Security teams from Kaspersky conducted physical war driving exercises, literally driving through the streets with antennas in major Mexican host cities like Mexico City, Monterrey, and Guadalajara.
And what do they find?
Their analysis found that between 10% and 12% of all available Wi-Fi networks in hotels, cafes, and public transit hubs are completely open, lacking any password encryption whatsoever. Furthermore, nearly half of the networks analyzed still utilize outdated WPS pairing protocols, which are notoriously vulnerable to brute force hacking.
Let's explain why logging into the open Wi-Fi at a cafe in Mexico City to check your email is a massive risk.
Utilizing an unencrypted network leaves your device entirely exposed to what is known as an evil twin attack.
How does an evil twin attack function?
A hacker simply sits in the lobby of the hotel or the corner of the cafe with a specialized router. They broadcast a new rogue Wi-Fi signal using the exact same name as the legitimate hotel network. Because your mobile device is programmed to automatically connect to known network names to save cellular data, it silently connects to the hacker's router instead of the hotel's infrastructure.
So they essentially place themselves directly in the middle of your digital connection.
Exactly. They become the middleman. They can now quietly intercept, monitor, and record all unencrypted traffic flowing from your device. If you check your bank balance, access your work email, or log into a ticketing portal, the data packets are routed through their machine, rendering your sensitive information entirely visible.
And we aren't just talking about opportunistic criminals looking to steal a few $100s. The sources indicate that highly resourced, state-aligned actors are actively utilizing this tournament as a vector for espionage.
The intelligence confirms this. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, commonly known as CISA, is actively deploying defensive measures against significant geopolitical cyber threats. Their analysts have discovered highly sophisticated digital infrastructure specifically aimed at the event organizers and municipal staff of the host cities.
Like what kind of infrastructure?
For example, CISA intercepted weaponized PDF documents that were carefully disguised as official employee handbooks and logistical schedules, which were emailed directly to city officials. When opened, these documents deploy advanced malware designed to infiltrate the critical operational infrastructure of the host city. State-aligned actors view the chaotic, high-pressure environment of a mega event as the perfect smokescreen to execute targeted cyber espionage against domestic targets.
It completely shatters the illusion of safety. It requires a fundamental shift in how you, as a fan or a participant, engage with these global events. You are essentially operating inside an invisible, highly contested war zone.
If we synthesize all the diverse threads we've analyzed today, a very clear, defining theme emerges regarding the nature of the 2026 World Cup. Think about it. Whether we are analyzing Lionel Scaloni utilizing Julian Alvarez's curved runs to find a specific pocket of undefended space on the pitch, or we are analyzing a Customs and Border Protection agent scrutinizing a passport to enforce a sovereign travel restriction, or we are analyzing a Chinese-speaking cyber syndicate exploiting an Android phone's accessibility tools to bypass security protocols.
Yeah.
Every single aspect of this tournament is defined by one core concept: the relentless exploitation of space and access.
The exploitation of space and access. That is an incredibly potent way to tie this entire sprawling narrative together. Inside the stadium, on the pristine grass, the exploitation of space is a beautiful, highly calculated tactical art form. But outside the stadium, off the pitch, the exploitation of digital access and geopolitical borders is a brutal, unforgiving reality. It is an ongoing battle of perimeters.
And that leads directly to the most critical advice we can offer the listener tuning in today. You must take active, deliberate steps to protect your own perimeter.
Yes, absolutely.
It requires a shift in daily habits. When you want to check your tickets, manually type the official URL into your web browser. Absolutely do not click on embedded links provided in social media advertisements or unsolicited text messages. Under no circumstances should you ever authorize a payment for any FIFA-related service using cryptocurrency.
Right.
Strictly audit your mobile device and do not grant accessibility permissions to unverified third-party applications. And if you are traveling to any of the 16 host cities, entirely avoid connecting to open, password-free Wi-Fi networks in hotels or public spaces. Rely exclusively on your encrypted cellular data plan or utilize a trusted VPN.
Protect your perimeter. It's vital advice for navigating this landscape. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final, broader thought to mull over. We began this conversation by discussing how the traditional, contained boundaries of a sporting event have completely shattered.
They really have.
As this World Cup expands to an unprecedented 48 teams sprawling across 3 massive sovereign nations and creating an almost incalculable logistical, political, and digital footprint, we are forced to ask a very difficult question regarding the future. Have we finally reached the tipping point where global sporting events are simply too massive, too complex, and too intertwined with sovereign security to be safely hosted?
It's a daunting thought.
The friction generated by physical borders and the severe vulnerabilities exposed within digital networks are becoming overwhelming. Are we currently witnessing the absolute peak of the mega event? Will future international tournaments be forced to shrink, to become geographically and digitally contained simply to survive the complex realities of the modern world?
It is a question that will define the next decade of international sports. At what precise point does the sheer logistical scale of the gathering fundamentally crush the unifying spirit of the event itself?
It's something to think about as you watch the matches unfold over the next month. We started this hour noting that we usually expect a clean diagnosis when we look at sports, like an X-ray showing exactly where the battle lines are drawn. But the 2026 World Cup is not a clear X-ray. It is a sprawling, murky landscape where the beautiful game is surrounded by incredibly complex, sometimes dangerous diagnostic waters. It is brilliant, it is deeply chaotic, and it is undoubtedly going to be a fascinating 39 days. Thank you for joining us on this Vailychat broadcast deep dives into the 2026 FIFA World Cup kickoff. Stay safe out there, protect your perimeters, and try to enjoy the games.
Thank you for listening.